everyone, and I would like to introduce Ebony Club. I am Maya Penn, and I'm the Vice President. And I'm sorry the President was unable to show up tonight, but I'd like to introduce the rest of the group.
Hello everybody, my name is Nate. I am a fourth year here, and I'm the student advisor for Ebony Club. Thank you so much.
Hello everyone, my name is Victoria Foster, and I am the alum advisor for Ebony Club.
Hello, I'm Nika. I'm Denite Gaffo, and I'm the Community Service Director.
Hello everyone, my name is Nicole, and I'm the secretary for Ebony Club.
Hello everybody, my name is Cortez, and I am the athletic director for Ebony Club. All right.
Yeah.
Hello, my name is Bridget Robbie, and I'm the Social and Cultural Director, and I'm a fourth year. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Shanika, I go by Nika, and I'm the finance director for Ebony Club.
So before we begin, I want to thank everyone for coming and thank all of the interpreters of color. And also the interpreters providing visual support. Thank you. So this evening, I'm glad that you're here. I know it's a last-minute meeting, and it's a very touchy subject. But a lot of you probably realize that we are not here to blame the teacher at all. We want to change the system. I'm sorry. I'm emotional. We want to change the system because there's a lot of diversity missing in the faculty, and we need to make changes. And that's why we're coming here. We're not coming here for blame.
I'd like to talk about some really simple but very important ground rules. We want to have an open discussion tonight talking about how people are feeling. And we will be confronting some very serious issues that are happening not only on campus but off campus as well. We know that we have community support and we really appreciate that. But we are asking those who don't identify as Black or Brown community members, please respect the Black and Brown community members' safe space. And to talk a little bit more about safe space, that means where Black and Brown community members feel comfortable to come together without judgment and to be able to share their feelings and thoughts about what's happening and what their experiences are. And so we ask you to please sit and listen and empathize and understand where we're coming from and why we're angry and why we're sick of the system. And the Black and Brown community are disabled as well.
So now we're going to play a video for you guys. You guys can partake in watching it. It's about the recent killings that have happened and Black Lives Matter movement. So please take a look. Can we dim the lights, please?
the lights on, please? Just so that the people up front are able to see. Thank you. And is that good now? Thank you.
So Pharrell crashed his car and knocked on the door of a nearby house. The woman inside called the police, and the police said that when Pharrell was apprehended, they shot him 10 times. And as a result, Officer Randall Carrick has been indicted on a charge of voluntary manslaughter. It took 2 grand juries to get there. Andy Lopez was carrying a pellet gun that resembled an AK-47 assault rifle. After officers reportedly told Lopez to drop the gun, he turned around towards them and they shot him. And the aftermath is that there is no indictment. And he was 13 years old. Andy Lopez, this individual, this young man, was 13 years old. We have Jordan Baker, 25 years old or 26 years old. An off-duty police officer thought that Baker fit the description of robbery suspects. Both they and he were wearing black hooded sweatshirts. A scuffle and foot chase ensued. Baker, who was unarmed, was fatally shot. The aftermath is that the officer, Jay Castro, who killed Baker, was placed on administrative leave pending an investigation. Baker's mother was said to be considering filing a lawsuit. This individual was 25 years old, Mackenzie Cochran. So Cochran died of position compression asphyxia during the struggle with a mall security. Cochran told them, "I cannot breathe." His death was ruled an accident by a medical examiner, and the aftermath is that there is no indictment for the security guard. This young man was 25 years old, Ezel Ford. Ford was shot by police officers who were conducting an investigative stop. A struggle ensued. Ford's family members say that he was lying down when he was shot. The aftermath is that the LAPD, which hasn't closed on the investigation into Ford's death, put an indefinite investigative hold on the coroner's autopsy report to prevent witness testimony from being tainted. So this case has not been solved. We have Dante Parker, age 36. Police responded to a call about an attempted break-in. The suspect fled on a bicycle. Police found Parker nearby riding his bicycle. He was unarmed. He resisted arrest, and a struggle ensued. Police tasered him, and he died. The aftermath is still pending, but the NAACP has called for a federal investigation. And we're still waiting on that investigation to happen. We have Michael Brown. He was 18 years old. This happened in Ferguson, Missouri. I'm sure you guys have heard about this incident in Ferguson. He was shot by Officer Darren Wilson after an altercation that happened inside of Wilson's car. Wilson reported that Brown, quote unquote, looked like a demon. The aftermath is that Wilson was not indicted by a grand jury, and he resigned from the Ferguson police force. The family greatly wanted to have the killer of their unarmed son held accountable. They really would look at every legal avenue, said Brown's family lawyer, Benjamin Crump. So the family is continuing this pursuit of investigating Officer Darren Wilson. We have one more. This individual's name is John Crawford III. He was 22. Crawford was fatally shot while carrying a pellet gun in Walmart. The gun was unsold merchandise and just out of the package. A man named Ronald Ritchie told 911, or called 911, and told them that it looked like he was pointing it at people. But a month later, he admitted that Crawford was not pointing the gun at people. The aftermath is that there has been no indictment. So certainly there are many other incidents that have happened. I'm sure you're aware of it, but we're going to stop here for now. I'm sure you may be restless and uneasy in your seats, and of course you have various reasons. Of course this is certainly an emotional and impactful moment. And so we all may be wondering why we're here. Well, we are here to help you understand what has been impacting us and why these slides particularly impact us and impacting our Black and brown community. As you can see, there have been countless numbers of Black and brown individuals who have been killed throughout the years, including a deaf Black man named Darrell Walker. He was shot by a police officer. He's a deaf African-American individual. A few days later, there was a deaf white male that was also killed by a police officer. The deaf white man's name was Daniel Williams. Again, he was a deaf white man. The deaf community did not recognize the Black individual that was killed, but certainly paid much homage to the white individual. So again, you notice the inequity in these two situations. But both of these deaths are important. And so both lives matter, and Black lives matter as well. So this is the history of policemen. We're going to show a video or a film. It's called Slavery and Mass Incarceration. And after that, we'll explain a little bit more in detail about the history of the police. Certainly, we want to start in talking about slavery and slave patrol. During the days of slavery, for those who were escaped, there were people who were on patrol who had the right to capture those who had escaped. And they would certainly abuse them. They would dismember them and do various other harmful things to these slaves, and even kill them. Certainly there was mass domination and control. Over time, though, there has been, the slave patrol evolved to policing. You may have heard of the 13th Amendment and may have done freed the slaves, but certainly that has not done much.
Because now the police have the ability to do the same thing that the slave owners did back under slavery. You know Maya Angelou in Louisiana. There were black and brown people thrown into prison often, while the slave patrol would walk around and monitor them on their horses as the slaves were out in the field working. And nowadays, you still see something very similar within our prison system and the institutions that we have today. One word that really impacted me was black code. I'm not sure if you are familiar with what that is. Let me try to explain. Basically, it's the police have the right to investigate a group of black people who are hanging out together It could be 2 or 3 hanging out together, and they have the right to investigate them and separate them. And so basically, as Black and brown community, they don't have the right to hang out with more than 2 or 3 people at a time. So how many of you have more than 2 or 3 people of color in your classrooms? When I use POC, what I mean is persons of color. So if you see me signing that. So think about your classroom. How many of you have more than 3 persons of color in your classrooms? A few students are raising their hand, but if you notice, if you look around the audience, there are only a few. So that's an example of Black code. The point is to divide and to segregate. So since the time of slavery, it's like the evolution from slave patrol to current policing today. Now they're killing our Black and brown community. And that is impacting our community because we are born with fear. And that's why I want you to understand us. So now we'd like to show you the film so that you have an understanding about what we've been going through.
In 1619, when the first Africans were brought to the British colonies by ship to Jamestown, Virginia, they held the legal status of servant. But as the region's economic system became increasingly dependent on forced labor, we descended into slavery. The institution of American slavery developed as a permanent, hereditary system centrally tied to race. Millions of Black people were forcibly taken from Africa, crammed on ships and brought to the Americas through a dangerous and deadly journey that crossed the Atlantic. Millions died. Once on our shores, slavery deprived the enslaved person of any legal rights or autonomy, and granted the slave owner complete power over the Black men, women, and children legally recognized as property. An ideology of white supremacy, a narrative of racial difference was created to rationalize and justify the continuation of slavery. American slavery was often brutal, barbaric, and violent. In addition to the hardship of forced labor, enslaved people were maimed or killed by slave owners as punishment for working too slowly, visiting a spouse living on another plantation, or even learning to read. Enslaved people were also sexually exploited. The United States Congress finally banned the importation of slaves from Africa in 1808. Slavery was widely considered a gross human rights violation, yet enslavement was retained and persisted. The 1808 Declaration caused the demand for slave labor to skyrocket in the Lower South, and the domestic slave trade grew to meet this demand. Between 1808 and 1860, the enslaved population of Alabama grew from less than 40,000 to more than 435,000. Slave traders chained African Americans together in couples and forced them to march hundreds of miles from the Upper South to the Lower South. Steamboats carried slaves along the Alabama River. Rail routes constructed with slave labor brought hundreds of enslaved people to Montgomery, Alabama every day, turning the city into one of the largest slave trading communities in the United States. Enslaved people would be paraded up Commerce Street to slave warehouses and slave depots. The city's slave market was at the Artesian Basin, now known as Court Square. Enslaved people of all ages were auctioned along with livestock, standing in line to be inspected. Public posters advertising the sale of slaves included gender, age, skill, complexion, owner's name, and price. Slavery in America traumatized and devastated millions of people. Husbands and wives, parents and children could not protect themselves from being sold away from each other. Enslaved families were separated at an owner's or auctioneer's whim, never to see each other again. The domestic slave trade separated nearly half of all enslaved people from their spouses and parents. In 1833, the Alabama legislature banned free Black people from residing in the state, meaning that enslavement was the only legally authorized status for African Americans. Even as the Civil War raged, slave trading in Montgomery flourished well into the mid-1860s. After the Confederacy's surrender in 1865, Congress passed the 13th Amendment, which prohibited slavery nationwide except as a punishment for crime. But in many former slave states, slavery did not end. It simply evolved. Southern whites, angry after losing the war, targeted black people who were largely abandoned by the federal government in the 1870s. For decades, black men, women, and children were tortured, terrorized, and killed by mobs and violent lynchings. Oppressed. For another 100 years, black people were racially segregated, denied the right to vote, education, and basic dignity. They were humiliated, beaten, or killed for minor offenses or for protesting. The civil rights movements of the 1950s and 60s helped to end legally authorized racial segregation, but racial bias still persists. Today, a presumption of guilt is assigned to many people of color who are disproportionately arrested, convicted of crimes, and sent to prison. African Americans are 6 times more likely to be sentenced to prison for the same crime as a white person. 1 in 3 black males born today can expect to spend time in prison during his lifetime. Police violence against black people is so epidemic that civil rights demonstrations have shut down cities across the U.S. as thousands of people march to protest police brutality. Many states celebrate the era of slavery with Confederate holidays and by honoring the defenders and architects of slavery while ignoring the history of enslavement. The Equal Justice Initiative believes that racial bias remains a serious problem and is a direct and lasting legacy of American slavery and our failure to deal with the history of racial injustice. The Equal Justice Initiative seeks to foster an honest conversation about the legacy of slavery, about mass incarceration, and racial inequality and how it still affects millions of people today. We can confront and overcome bias and discrimination. Please join us in this conversation so that we can move forward together.
Certainly, that was a heavy film. I do have a question for for the individuals here today. I'm wondering, for the people of color in this room, how many people of color do you think are in public safety? What percent of individuals do you think are people of color in the public safety unit? You see 1, we see 2. Well, let's see the results. Correct. Absolutely correct. There are 2% of individuals. And I guess we had a question of out of how much? So 2. So we're not sure exactly how many public safety officers there are.
I'm sorry, if you're going to ask any questions, I want you to state your name first and then ask the question so that the interpreter can say who you are. So Louise is asking, 2%, is that really it? I'm curious how many public safety officers there are in total here at NTID and RIT. There's a side conversation going on here. I missed what you said.
So we're not sure of the total number of public safety officers that are employed here at RIT, but we'll say, let's just say out of 100%, we certainly know that there are 2% of the officers that are individuals of color.
Okay, so how many people of color are in NTID counseling? Wait.
And do want to clarify on this point. See, actually, we have already hosted this event for the students, so students, please do not answer. Actually, we'd like the faculty and staff to participate in this moment, please. So faculty and staff, these questions are for you. Thank you so much. I'm sorry for the confusion, just wanted to clarify that. Thank you.
Okay, so to faculty and staff, how many people of color are within the NTID Counseling Center? How many do you think? Oh, I've got a 1% over here. What, 4 or 5%, 1%? Let's show it up here. 0.5%. That equals 1 person of color. All the rest are white counselors. That makes a big impact.
Now we're going to ask about NTID professors. How many here that are professors at NTID? Who's a professor here? Who do you think? So how many are people of color that are NTID professors? 6%. Some people want to make that relationship, have that role model within the classroom. You know, they've had role models within their generation, in their families, to be able to make that connection. So we're trying to build on that diversity, and we're trying to work on that.
So for the staff and faculty in the room, based on your opinion, how many people of color here are interpreters? How many interpreters are people of color? We got 10. We've got another number
5%,
here. We've got 5,
1%,
8,
5%.
all the way in the back there. What are we getting? We've got 4%. All right, well, let's just show the answer. So we've got less than 10 people. Less than 10 people are people of color, interpreters of color here at RIT. And certainly that is not enough. We need individuals who can understand what we're saying, people who can convey the culture and the language that we like to express. And so we have most of them here probably right now. So thank you to the interpreters in front of us.
I'm hoping to see more hands from the faculty. How many administrators do you think that we have who are persons of color? Can I get an answer from over here? 1%, 2%, 1%. We need more representation within our administrators. We need somebody who understands our opinion and who understands our voice and someone we can relate to.
How many people of color do you think are on the NTID advisory group on NAG? How many? Come on. What are you thinking over here? 1, 2? Come on, staff, please answer. 1 or 2? 1 or 2? That's what you're thinking? Look at less than 2. That is a very small percentage. You got to think about that.
So less than 2 people, is that clear? And there's something that I also wanted to add. So these are not so specific numbers, but we are just trying to focus on significant data right now. So I just wanted to clarify that. These are not totally accurate, but these are the conceptual ideas.
I just want to clarify, people of color, I'm not talking about cross-registered students, I'm only talking about NTID students. Now, if we count exactly the people who have left and who have come back, that's not who we're focusing on. We're focusing on the people that are here right now. What do you think the percentage is? Nag, can you answer? Anybody?
So I'm sure you guys get the picture clearly, right? 40% of students actually stay here at RIT. And we have 6 professors that are people of color, professors or staff members that are here at NTID. And so we need more individuals who can be our role models and represent us in the staff faculty category. And that's something that we would definitely like to change. We want that hiring process for, particularly focusing on people of color for the staff and faculty position. The students who are individuals of color want to make sure that we are having and developing a safe zone so that we can relate and express ourselves freely in this institution. Certainly, you guys are aware of diversity training, and we want the staff to have diversity training so they can be aware of various backgrounds. And I actually want to make this clear for everybody here. This is not just for people of color. And this is also for the deaf-blind community, for other individuals with other disabilities, for individuals who may have autism, ADHD, and there's a various number of categories that we can focus on. So, but we want to promote accessibility for all individuals and not just for the Black and brown community. Is that clear? I want to make sure. So we also hosted an open forum last semester. I think that was April 29th, that was the exact date. So we hosted the open forum. Ashley, can somebody copy sign, please?
Okay, what's your name? Your name is Ashley, okay, and the question is, how many full-time students here are people of color? Full-time people of color who are students. What is the number?
So 40% of the NTID population are full-time students here. Does that answer your question? Okay. So getting back to our presentation, we hosted an open forum that was on April 29th. Ebony Club and DEI, which is the Diversity and Equality, or Equity and Inclusion group, both organizations hosted this event in order to get a sense of the various perspectives that are in this community. We wanted to promote cultural understanding and sensitivity to different cultures on this campus. Personally, I can say that there were many things that impacted me greatly at that forum. It was a great turnout. There was also a survey that was handed out to the faculty and staff members, and the results from that survey were quite interesting. And again, these are ideas and these are general numbers. These are not particularly accurate, specific, or exact numbers. So I guess I'll let you guys read this quote. So there was a significant number of faculty and staff who left comments on the surveys that felt the forum wasn't needed and was a waste of their time. So for me, that made me feel like, well, do you care about us as students? Do you care about our accessibility? Do you care about our education? Do you care about our safety, about the safe zone that's supposed to be here at RIT? Obviously, the answer is no. Obviously. I mean, there have been nobody that felt that it wasn't needed or was a waste of their time. We're here for success. We want to grow. You're supposed to be here for our positivity and for our encouragement instead of these types of comments. And that really disappointed me. So it doesn't matter how many responded. There should not have been one that said they felt like it was a waste of their time. One at all. I'm certain that we are all aware of the various issues that have been happening in society and on campus. I want to explain personally what happened to me. Again, my name is Nate. So this happened last week, Monday. I attended class. That particular day, everybody was taking the quiz, and so I happened to finish a little bit early, so I was waiting for the other students to finish. And the teacher started the lecture after everybody finished the class. But unfortunately that day, I was really tired. I was having a hard time staying awake in class. I was trying my best, but I was having a hard time staying awake. And so I tried to find another way to keep myself attentive in the class. So I decided to take out my phone in order to engage myself so that I could pay attention and follow what was going on, follow the lecture, the pace of the teacher. And so The teacher, while I was doing that, the teacher pulled out a syllabus, and I was multitasking. So the teacher pulled out a syllabus, and the syllabus said that no laptops or something else was not allowed in the classroom. And I personally said, well, sorry, but I don't see cell phone on the syllabus. So I was just joking a little bit, but certainly I did follow what the teacher wanted. So I put the phone away. The teacher continued on with the lecture, and I continued on taking notes and multitasking. But again, this wave of sleepiness hit me once again, and I was having a hard time keeping up and taking notes and paying attention. And so I tried my best to pay attention, just to no avail. I had a hard time paying attention. So what I decided to do was pull out a book. Now this book was not related to the particular class. It was my own personal book that I love reading, but at the same time, it would engage my mind and engage me personally so that I could multitask and pay attention to the class, to the lecture. The teacher then told me to leave the room, and I was a little bit confused by that. And I said, no, I would actually prefer to stay, but he said, no, please exit the classroom because you are interrupting the class. And I said, well, that's interesting, interrupting the class. I'm not exactly sure how I'm interrupting the class, but in that particular moment, I refused to leave because that's my right as a student. I have a choice to learn, right? I have a choice to education, of course. And so I felt a little, put off by that situation, but nonetheless, the teacher, what he did was he pulled up on the screen the number for public safety in front of everybody in the class. And so at that moment, I was like, okay, this is getting real. The teacher pulled out his cell phone and pretended that, was about to dial the public safety number, but I decided to leave in that moment. And I was totally disgusted and I was totally hurt by what happened that particular day. I did share everything that happened that day with the student life team. I felt that I should not have been kicked out of the class. I was just trying to keep myself awake during the class. So that was Monday. I had great discussion with SLT, and then we all talked about maybe meeting with the chairperson and the teacher, with the professor and the chairperson to talk about what happened. Now, on Wednesday, I was a bit apprehensive as if I should go to the class or not. But there was another quiz that day, and I certainly didn't want to fail the quiz again. On Monday's class, since I was kicked out, I missed, I would say, about 30% of the notes. 30 minutes of the lecture. And so I said, on Wednesday, I decided still to go. Got to the classroom, I was ready to take the quiz, and sure enough, for the notes that I had, for the time that I was there was nothing on the quiz that was from the notes that I had taken on Monday. And so I asked the teacher if we could have a one-on-one session so I could take the quiz a little bit later. And he said, no, the students all have to take the quiz at the same time. And I said, that's a bit not fair because I was kicked out, you kicked me out of the classroom on Monday, and so I missed like half of the lecture, at least 30 minutes of the lecture. And so he said, I was not sure about what we were going to do about it. Certainly I had all these emotions running through me. I wasn't confident in taking the quiz, and he gave me 0, and I accepted it. I said, okay, I'm getting 0 this time. Obviously, I'm still burning deep inside, but I tried to calm myself down the best way I could. Took out the same book that I was reading on Monday. The other students were still taking their quiz, and so I'm relaxing as I'm reading my book, and this book is really good to me. Like I have to admit, like I lost myself in this book. I loved it so much, and I still love it. And so the rest of the students finished with the quiz. We were getting ready for the remainder of the lecture. I took out my notes, and the notes, I was reading the book and at the same time trying to take notes, and I really, like I said, I really love the book. So I was trying to do both at the same time. Teacher again asked me to leave the class, and I'm like, what did I do? I'm following just fine with the lecture. I'm following while I'm taking the notes. And so again, I was accused of interrupting the class because I was reading the book. And it was at that moment that the teacher decided to call public safety, and I decided to stay because this is about my education. And I deserve to stay. And so the teacher went on and called public safety, I stayed in the class and waited I continued to watch the lecture because the teacher went on with the lecture. I did put the book away because I was, kind of burning at that point. Calling public safety was a big, bold move. And so I tried to get as many notes as possible before, I don't know what was going to happen when public safety arrived. So here comes public safety. There are two white individuals, officers. And I want to emphasize that they were white officers. And my mind went crazy. Like, who knows if they have a gun? Who knows what they have? They could choke me. They could hurt me. Like, my mind went through all this list of different things that could ensue after public safety arrived. And so I know that we had just passed a training that public safety are not allowed to have firearms on campus. And I was aware of that, but that did not mean anything to me. That they are allowed to have firearms on campus, but that did not, that really still, and then there was a training about that. They know how to use it, but that still did not mean anything to me. I still was not sure. So they escorted me out of the room, and I had to explain to them what happened on both Monday and Wednesday. I explained my side of the story. Public safety was made aware of that, and they wanted to hear the teacher's side of the story. And so I obviously waited for the teacher to explain their side. Public safety comes back to me, and they say that it seems like both of our stories are pretty much compatible. Like we're pretty much on parallel. We're pretty much on the same page. And so I'm like, okay, now what's going to happen? Like, what's going to happen now? They said there's no serious trouble that has happened. And so they wanted me to go to the public safety office or department. I said, absolutely not. I do not feel comfortable. I prefer to go to the student life team area. And so they were all for that, which I was like, okay, great. And I was going to walk alone to the student life team. And they said, no, that we must accompany you or escort you. That also threw me off. And I said, okay. Now, mind you, the class is in LBJ, and we had to journey, if you will, all the way from LBJ through this entire, all through the hallways, all through outdoors to get to SLT, and that was so embarrassing. I felt like I was put on the spot. There are individuals looking at me, wondering what's going on, and that was the most embarrassing moment of my life because public safety was right behind me the entire time. And there were so many people looking at me saying, what's going on? What's going on? What's wrong? And I was just completely embarrassed in that moment, utterly disgusted. Made it to SLT into a particular room. We discussed then what was going on, and we wanted to, and public safety recommended that I meet with a chairperson, and we said that we had already set that up. And then so for the next day, and so then public safety left. And so that is